Okay, so here's my presentation, which kind of seems like an ad now, but I tried my best, okay? And I'm really short, so. All right, so we talk about our socials. Why am I even here today? It's because accidentally I have 220,000 followers on TikTok. And so I'm also on LinkedIn, we're also on X, but in terms of our biggest following, it is this 220,000 people have decided that it's a good idea to follow us. No idea why, just kidding. I'll give you a tiny idea. So I want to talk a little bit about the basics, and I think Catherine is going to talk to you about how she runs, like what she does, her process, really in a basic way. But social networking sites are all kind of different. So, you know, when we talk about Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, these are kind of person-to-person conversation types of sites. Then you've got your image-based sites like that focus on illustrations, that focus on infographics, and that example of that would be Instagram. And then we have their video sharing and streaming platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, which is maybe some of your children use Twitch. And one of the staggering kind of statistics that I read recently, which was from a 2016 survey, it was something like 90% of Canadians are on Facebook. That's crazy, right? Like almost the entire population is on Facebook. So that is a population you can reach and advertise to for your clientele. So who are we? So we are just a boutique law firm in the Durham region. And we have offices in Whitby, Ontario, and Oshawa, and we focus on estate litigation and family law only. We're led by women, we're family focused, and we have a real interest in access to justice issues, and in particular addressing the large number of self-represented litigants in family court. And a lot of our videos are directed to those self-represented litigants who are navigating the family courts with zero help, probably because they can't afford it, but also, you know, maybe they've decided to be self-represented, and sometimes our videos convince them that maybe they shouldn't be. So let's talk about how our firm culture went into the marketing. So we had to think about what do we want our firm to look like to the public eye. So we want to be approachable, we want to feel modern, we want to feel not your traditional law firm. And how will we translate? We try to do clean visuals so that when we do our videos, there's no like paperwork piled up in the corner. There's no kind of messiness to the eye if you take a look at our videos. And the social media that aligns with our messaging is videos because it's short and it was something that we could do fast, right? We can do a 60-second video and that's not taking that much billable time out of our daily lives. Whereas if I had to write a whole blog or, you know, do some kind of word-focused media, I just don't feel like I personally could devote the time to that. And like, I don't know about the rest of you, but for us who are kind of practicing in like smaller communities around Ontario, I very much could run into my client while I'm in the cereal aisle telling my son that he can't have Lucky Charms, you know? Like, I don't get the luxury of pretending that my persona only exists in a well-appointed boardroom in downtown Toronto. Like, my persona exists inside of the community as well, doing my daily tasks. So I can be a little bit more, you know, informal. I can show a little bit of my quirky side. I just wanted to give a shout out to our socials team. These are all the ladies that, look at these pictures, they're so nice. Our local photographer does these. But these are the people that help me do this day to day because I wouldn't be able to do this alone. And these are all lawyers at the firm who volunteer their time to do the social media. Okay, in terms of when we talk about the topic of viral vibes, we got 4 million views on this. Why? I don't know. How would you write this in an email? Why would you care? But apparently they do. And then we do a lot of legalese videos. So that means someone writes in a comment and says, hey, I'd like to tell this to my spouse, or I'd like to say this in court. And then we just translate the exact phrase that they're trying to say. We do not give legal advice. So I'm not telling you if you should say that at all, but if this is what you want to say, sure. Our biggest viewed video, for reasons that escape me, is us lip syncing to a video about not taking your ex back. Yeah. So people really resonated with that. Around Christmas time, apparently they text you. like a high text or something. Okay, how much time do we invest? So we actually invest some of our time, but our model is similar to a lot of firms in smaller communities, which is lawyers are compensated by a percentage of their collected billings, right? And their percentages are higher when the client is referred directly to them, and we have a very, very sophisticated tracking system to ensure that if that client is referred directly to that lawyer, they will get a higher percentage, which then incentivizes them to put themselves out there and build their own book of business. So being visible on social media in our firm is a choice. You don't have to do it. And most of our lawyers invest about 15 to 30 minutes a day per week. Okay, for me, we have to have this discussion later, but you don't have to do it all. You could hire a social media manager if you want. There's many freelancers out there. You can gather a team within your firm, and your ideas can come from anywhere. You can create a culture where everyone can contribute. You can start small, maybe post once a week, and then work up to like daily posts, which we do. And I also, as a tip, I'm always like, social media is both forever and very temporary, so people are going to forget about what you post. So that feeling of fear that everybody's going to see that you're a fool, that'll be forgotten tomorrow with the next post, right? And so here's just a little informational block about where we're getting our files from. This is our internal data. So you can see here that most of our files come from Google, but Google is like a final destination sometimes for people. They've already seen us on social media, they've already seen us other places, then they Google our name, right? And then clients refer other clients to us. We've got staff, corporate, to explain that's the estate litigation side of our practice. Corporate just means another lawyer refer to file, and because we are estate litigators, that's where we get our files from. Different associations, but you can see the social media is actually it's portioned out, so we've got social media and TikTok. So social media would mean like Instagram and LinkedIn, things like that. So it's about 20% that come directly from social media, and then we got 35 that come from just randomly Google. But it also, you have to take into account where are these people finding the idea to Google you. Okay, so here's my tips, and we're going to go back to talking to Catherine. Narrow your focus, speak directly to your audience. One tip would be speak about one subject to one person when you're speaking to the camera. Be relatable. Choose the topics your clients are going to be interested in. Consistency, you can decide how often you post and you stick to it. Give them valuable content, give them something they can use. Be authentic, don't play a role, and always measure your results because you won't know whether it's working unless you're measuring those results. So the benefits that we've found through social media are the direct benefits are clients contacting you directly from social media. Recognition, right? Clients find you from other sources, but they recognize your logo, they recognize your name. And we also attract talent through it. So lawyers, staff, they see and they think, oh, this seems like a nice place to work. Meanwhile, it's all just a front and we're just pretending. No, just kidding. We're very nice. And that's it. So let's have a little talk together.
Okay. Awesome.
If I do a slideshow, I have to use it.
Yeah, maybe I'll just quickly introduce myself. So my name's Catherine Marshall, and I actually just started a law firm a month ago called Marshall Law, obviously, because how could I not use that play on words? Although I had people email me like, did you know that martial law is actually a military thing? Anyways, I was like, yes, I was aware. Yeah, so I've been practicing law for about 12 years, and I've always used social media. Like I started using it early in my career, doing just on Twitter, like mostly ranting about politics and just things that I found interesting. And then I started really getting more into like LinkedIn and doing videos and doing social media. And I probably have about, I think across both platforms, like 30,000 followers, and I'm not on TikTok yet, so I'm very impressed by the TikTok stuff, but I get a lot of my client referrals through social media, and I think it's something that you can do easily if you put your mind to it. I know a lot of firms spend so much money on like SEO and all of that stuff. It can be very expensive, but like I've never spent any money really on my social media. I do it all myself pretty much.
Do you have a viral post? Like something that
Yeah.
really took off in followers?
That's interesting. So I think like probably my most viral post was I had a case, it's ongoing still, against Google for pregnancy discrimination. And it was on the front page of the National Post, and I decided to do like a post. This wasn't a video, I just did a post about it, basically just telling my client's story. And like LinkedIn is a lot more tolerant of longer posts too, which I like. And that one, like, it went totally viral. It got shared by a lot of Americans, and it had almost 1 million impressions, which for LinkedIn is a lot. And definitely like the videos that I do about like, how to manage your narcissist boss or how to like deal with a toxic coworker. Those videos people love. And for me, it's business development because my ideal client, I do employment law, I do human rights discrimination and civil sexual assault, but my ideal client is really someone who has a messy employment situation. I want them to come to me because they have a potential constructive dismissal. So I find like, I don't know, it's weird, like videos will just go viral and you have no idea why.
Well, I think part of it is the consistency because
Yeah.
you are posting consistently and the algorithm likes that, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's your process when you're making a video? Or let's talk about your process for
Yeah.
making videos and then talk about your process for your written posts.
Yeah, so I just started doing videos in January. So the videos have been new for me, and I find like people really like them. My process is basically I'll come up with an idea. I try to do it once a week because, as you said, like it's true. The algorithms like consistency. So if you're only posting like once every 2 months, less people will see it because the algorithm's not going to show it to that many people. But I'll come up with an idea. Usually it's something like that. It'll be like, oh, I just got this case and there was this weird issue, or I'll think of like a question that a client is asking a lot, and I'll just do a video about it. And I'll wait till like it's the end of the day, and I turn on my ring light, and I just put up my phone, and I start just talking to the camera, like in a very unscripted. I don't script them. Sometimes I have to do a few takes. I find it very cringy to watch myself, but that's basically my process. And then I throw it out there. I throw it online, and yeah. It just could.
Yeah, ring light does wonders for your complexion for
Yeah.
whatever reason. Okay, how about your written posts? Like when you sit down to write a post, which is something that I don't really do and don't have experience with. For example, on X, like what's your process for that?
Yeah, for me, writing is that's my comfort. I find like videos is kind of hard getting beyond the cringe factor, but you do psychologically get beyond it. But I like to write. On LinkedIn, I'll do much longer posts, usually 3 paragraphs. And my process is usually in the morning when I'm feeling the most creative is I'll sit down and I'll just write something. And I'll throw it out there, and then I'll take that and do like a shorter version for X because on X they like shorter things. And I don't get the thing too is like don't get discouraged if your posts don't have a lot of traction. Just because they're not being liked or shared doesn't mean does not mean people aren't reading it. Like I'm well aware that like not everyone's gonna like a post about how to deal with your toxic boss because their boss is probably watching their LinkedIn likes.
Yeah, and you don't want to see them liking that,
Yeah, but I get like I would say like I get about half of my referrals now are people who said they saw something on social media.
Do you get a lot of negative comments on your posts?
Yeah, so look, if you're gonna put yourself out into the like the universe, the internet, you're gonna get negative comments. Like I'll get on LinkedIn, not so much because people are a little more professional, but I do get comments like, oh, like there was one recently and like some guy was like, your shirt is so low cut. And I mean, I'm me, so I roasted him, and then he ended up deleting his comment and blocking me. But Twitter,
win.
yeah, I know, right? I was so excited, and like then my followers started roasting him. But like Twitter, you're gonna get way more negative comments because Twitter is terrible. People can have anonymous accounts, but I really don't get that many negative comments. If about the types of posts that I'm putting up there.
Well, I think my feeling on it is, we're both litigators.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we do get a number of negative comments, but
Yeah.
honestly, there's nothing you could write that opposing counsel hasn't said that hurt my feelings more last week.
Exactly.
So, there's absolutely nothing that you could write. We've definitely gotten, you're fat, you're ugly. These kind of like, yeah, sure. I mean, that doesn't really hurt me because, opposing counsel said my brief was horrible last week. I mean, that's way more hurtful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of at the point in my career where like I don't care what opposing counsel or like I've heard it all. I've heard, and like look, my niche specialty, if I'm being really blunt, is taking on rapists and psychopaths and like molesters. So like I have seen the worst, and those guys and sometimes girls, by the way, hire the worst lawyers. So I have basically heard it all, and there's like a whole Reddit forum apparently devoted to like people bashing me from the incel community. So that's kind of fun. But I think I think the experience of being a woman on the internet is different than if you're a man, and that's something to be cognizant of. It just is, unfortunately, we do get, like, people are going to make comments about your appearance in a way that they will not, I think, for men.
Yeah, you get hate for breathing.
For
That's
sure,
true.
for existing and
Yeah.
having opinions.
Sure.
But something you said that I think is really smart is, and I totally agree with it, and maybe you can talk about, like, being authentic, because I think that is what really gets people to be engaged in your social media, if you're authentic.
Yeah, and so I think we talked about earlier how your kind of opinion is that hiring a social media manager puts a wall between you and the authenticity. And I do have a lot of sympathy for those who just don't feel that they are with it enough or whatever to post themselves on social media. But I think that the numbers bear out that authenticity piece for us. Our Instagram page is run by a social media manager. We have about 2,500 followers. And which is not bad for a lawyer's page. It's not horrible. But there is a lack of like authenticity on that page because it's run through kind of a third party that I think is borne out in the numbers, because as soon as our committee got together and was like, I'd like to open up a TikTok page, that page is run by lawyers, the lawyers in that committee. So they will put them out authentic videos or things that they think are funny or interesting or whatever. And I think you're the same, is that you actually do it yourself, which not a lot of law firms do.
Yeah, I could hire someone, but I enjoy doing it, although it is becoming a lot of work, and I'm getting my junior staff members to get more involved in the process. But my big advice to anyone in this room who's thinking of using social media to either like develop like thought leadership or voice or attract clients is you have to know who your audience is. And I think a lot of lawyers, when I look at the content on law firm websites and like lawyer social media, I feel that they are speaking to other lawyers, and that's probably not who their target is. And I think when firms do like case law summaries and stuff, like, I mean, that's great. I love it. I'm like, oh, this case just came out. Thank you for doing my research for me. But like, that's like, your target audience probably isn't someone who's going to find a summary of a case interesting or even digestible. So for me, I really, with my social media, how I get it to make me, I'm convinced my social media, like I know it's made me hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, because I know I track who comes in through my posts, and I get some really great cases that way. But I look at my audience, like who are my target audience? What is my ideal client? Then I think about, what does my ideal client deal with? For me, like I love helping other women. I love helping women who are like mid-stage in their career, who are being screwed over in the workplace. And I think of the issues they're having to deal with, like maybe menopause in the workplace and lack of accommodations. That's a video right there, 3-minute video. And I think like thinking about what kinds of problems your target audience have, and then talking about those issues in like a really, really blunt, straightforward manner is, I think, the key to like having relatable content.
What do you say to those people who, like, and I do get this kind of pushback occasionally when I'm speaking to other lawyers about how social media has the perception of sort of putting the legal profession into disrepute. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I really hate all these like unwritten rules of law. So I generally ignore them. Like, I remember when I first started as a lawyer being told, I don't even know by who, but being told, lawyers shouldn't comment to the media. And, you know, I'll talk to the media all the time. Like, I'm known for having cases in the media. I will do press conferences. I will post, like, my pleadings on my LinkedIn account. And then I get calls from opposing counsel, and they're like, take that down. And I'm like, why? It's a public record. You know, I think it's of public interest. There are no rules around these things, but I think this is a very conservative profession, and I think, like, you have to do what you feel good about and not, like, work in the box.
Yeah, and I think also taking into account the rules of professional conduct,
Yep.
and those rules are pretty, you know, I mean, they're pretty general. It just says, you know, kind of don't lie, I would say.
Yeah.
And don't mislead your clients, and I think, you know, neither of us are doing that in the messaging that we're giving to our clients, or potential clients, or the people that we're giving messages to. And I also think that law is changing. And the public perception of lawyers is changing a little bit. And I've gotten some very positive feedback from younger lawyers in the profession saying to me that, you know, until they saw our videos, they didn't see themselves in a
Yeah.
role that was like a legal role or a lawyer at all, right?
Definitely. I think, like, you know, a lot of lawyers get hung up of like, I don't want to put a social media out and be wrong. Well, like, I mean, law is subjective. People pay us for our opinions. Like, you're allowed to have an opinion and put it out there. And no, you don't need to be practicing law for 30 years to have a valid opinion. So, yeah, I always, like, ignore those rules of, like, I'm sure there are lawyers in my profession who think my videos are unseemly. I don't care.
Well, what's one tip you would give to anybody starting out?
I think just start somewhere and be consistent, and like let your following grow organically, and don't be discouraged if like your first few posts don't get a lot of traction. It's just something that's going to take time.
Yeah, don't worry about shouting into the void for a little while.
Yeah, you will at first. Like, my first post got like 3 likes when it was my mom.
Yeah. Are we ready for questions or no questions? No time. Oh. There's one question. Okay.
Yes.
She needs the mic.
Oh, she needs
It's being recorded.
Hi, Sarah Robeck from Elgin Law Association. Have you ever had a situation where an opposing party commented on your social media? And if so, how did you handle that? I had a situation where I had an OP comment on my Facebook photo saying how I was a trash lawyer and that my face is one that only a mother could love. They were represented, so I notified the other lawyer of their action, and Facebook allowed me to delete their comments on my end so that they couldn't be visible after that. But how would you have handled that situation?
I mean, I've definitely had like the individual who I am suing on behalf of a client like post things on Twitter and like the internet, and I usually just screenshot and send it to their lawyer, and I'm like, Exhibit A, your client's a psychopath.
Just really quickly, do you have a dialogue with your clients? So you mentioned you post pleadings for things, and you typically have cases that there's a public interest component to them. But do you have a dialogue with the client about like, okay, like, yes, this stuff's in the court file, but how much attention do you want it to get? Is that part of your intake?
100%. I will never ever go public with a case unless it's the client's desire, which often it is in those cases. They usually want changes, so that's absolutely something that like I have to have a conversation with my client about. And it's usually something they want to do.
I think that's...
You have to be careful though. I mean, like, and let the clients know, they're opening themselves up to scrutiny as well.
Yeah. I think that's it, right? Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
well, thank you. Happy to answer
so
more
much,
questions.
guys. That was great, very helpful. Either way.